The library offers access to a variety of apps that let you read ebooks, listen to audiobooks, stream movies, stream music, read papers and magazines, all from wherever you are on most of your favorite devices. These can be accessed from our homepage, avalonfreelibrary.org. Just bring your mouse up to the Borrow heading in the top menu and bring it down to ebooks and streaming. When you click on that, it'll bring you to our digital library page, which offers you access to all of the different apps. First, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Overdrive, which is going to be the one that is most popular for ebooks and e-audiobooks. When you get there, you'll be immediately able to browse the collection and look at different titles, but really the first thing you're going to want to do is to get your account signed in. You can do that by coming up to the sign in button up here near the top right of the page. And all you need to do is enter your library card number. Now that you've done that, when you browse through the collection, you'll be able to borrow and download the books that you find interesting. You can go ahead and scroll through here and look at the different suggested collections. You'll see a lot of really popular titles on here, many of which are available now. Keep an eye out right underneath the title and author where it tells you which format it is, so that you make sure you don't accidentally get the audiobook or the ebook of something when you were actually interested in the other version. Let's go ahead and see if we can find something here that we will take a look at. Let's do this one. We'll do Lost City of Z. When you click on the title, it will bring you to a page that gives you a description of the book. You can see some reviews. It'll also let you read a sample of select titles. You can see over here where it gives you a list of formats. Overdrive Read and EPUB will work inside of the Overdrive app. Kindle Book is required for books that you want to read on a black and white Kindle where you can't install the Overdrive or Libby apps. Most titles will be available in all of these formats, but there will be a handful that do not have a Kindle version available, so be aware of that. If we want to go ahead and borrow the book, we're just going to go ahead and click Borrow. By default, you get it for 21 days. You can change that to a shorter period if you want. We're not going to touch that. We'll just go ahead and click Borrow here to confirm. And now here's where it gives us some options. If you were on a black and white Kindle, you would need to click Read Now with Kindle. And what would happen then is it would take you to the Amazon site, which we will do in a moment. If you're on a Kindle Fire or anything else like an iPad or an Android device, you're going to want to pick Download EPUB ebook. Also, be careful not to click Read Now in browser. If you're on a computer, that's okay, but otherwise you want to stay away from that, because what happens then is it does not download the book. It just lets you read it in the cloud. So if you're not connected to the internet, you can't continue reading. But we're going to go ahead and click Download EPUB book. That's not going to work because I'm on a computer. But if you were on a mobile device at that point, it would go ahead and download it to your device. If it didn't download correctly, or you're on a new device trying to download books that you have on your other one, you can always go to Loans. Those can be accessed as well by clicking on the bookshelf icon up here. It looks like the 3 books lined up next to each other. You'll notice that when you see the Loan Now, the only choice it gives us is to download the EPUB ebook or to read now in the browser. That is because once you pick either the Kindle book or the EPUB ebook, it does not let you go back and forth between the two. You can only have one or the other. So be really careful about making sure that you pick the right one. If you did get the wrong one, or if you were finished with the book, you could go ahead and click Return. It's going to ask, are you sure you want to do that? And that sent it back, so the next person can have it, or you could go ahead and try and get it again if no one is waiting to get it on the right format if you had unintentionally selected the wrong one. While you are in your account, you can also have a look at your holds. I shouldn't have anything on hold right now, but anything that you're waiting for would appear there. The reason you might be on hold for something is because this works the same as a physical copy of a book, in that if the library has only ordered one, only one person can have it at a time, and you have to wait for them to finish with it. You can add things to a wish list just so that you'll remember to come back to them a little later. I can actually say that I have forgotten all of these, so I don't know. Well, actually, some of these I would still read, but that's neither here nor there. If you rate titles, you can see them there. recommendations, your history, and your settings. We're going to go ahead and go back to the front, and we're going to pick another book that we can borrow. Let's go back down. We'll just, don't want to do that. Let's try Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Now this time we're going to go ahead and do it with the Kindle E-Read. We'll go through the steps, and this is what's going to happen when you do Read Now with Kindle. You click on that, and it'll bring you off to Amazon.com and give you a description of what the book looks like, some rules about library lending. But you're going to notice over here in the top right is where you would typically have a button that says to buy an item, but instead what it is going to have is Get Library Book, and you would just click on that, and it will take it to whatever device you have listed here. Like I have one of my Kindle Fires listed there. You could click on this. I will just say I don't have this many devices, just some of them I have not deleted from my Amazon account yet, but you could pick whichever device you wanted to send it to from there. If you have done this and you do not see it on your Kindle device, there's a couple things you could check. The first would be to make sure that your Kindle is connected to the internet, as that's a common problem where without it being connected to the internet, the book will not show up. Secondly, what you might want to do is in the Kindle there is a Sync Now button, so look for that and hit that. And the last option, if those are not working, is while you're on Amazon to go to your account, and when you get to the Content and Devices page, you should notice the book you just borrowed, which, provided you haven't done anything since then, should be the first thing listed as it is the most recent. To the left side of it, you will notice a column labeled Actions and this little button with 3 dots on it. You're just going to go ahead and click on that and get a menu to pop up. And when that menu pops up, you're going to choose where you want it to be delivered to try to force it to go along. When you have downloaded a book to a black and white Kindle, if you decide you want to return it for whatever reason, this is also the only place from which you can do that. You would click on that same Actions button to get the menu to come back up, and click on Return this book. It'll ask if you're sure, just click yes, and that's it. It is returned. When you are looking at a book that is not available, but you want to get yourself on the list, you would instead just click on Place a Hold right here. And also, if your hold becomes available while you're in the middle of reading another book, it will present you with an option to just put yourself one place down the list and pass that on to the next person while you have time to finish the book that you're currently reading. Also, if you just want to read the book later, but you don't want to put yourself on hold right now, you can click here to add to wish list, and that'll keep track of it for you to come back to when you're ready for it. Across the top, you can browse through the different subjects. It has things broken down, all formats, ebooks and audiobooks. You can look at all the titles that are available. You can see we have almost 20,000 on there. You can break it down into different things through fiction and nonfiction. Nonfiction obviously has a lot more subheadings. There's juvenile fiction, juvenile nonfiction, young adult, and young adult nonfiction. If we go ahead and click on one of these, and let's just take one. I like scary stuff, so let's go with horror. And right away it has it sorted by the date that the book has been added to our collection. So some of these are actually things you can put yourself on the list for that aren't actually out yet. Like I know these books are coming out through the course of the summer. Then you can see which ones there's a wait list for. You can work your way down the list until you find something you're interested in. You can further refine the results over here to just see different things like stuff that's actually available now, whether it's juvenile or adult. You can see how recently things were added, the formats that things can be read in, the audiobook formats, and then even break it down a little further, like some of the sub-genres under horror, the interest levels. This ATOS levels is going to be more for kids' books, so it's basically like approximately what grade reading level the children would be at. And the text difficulty basically works the same way. There are also pages specifically just for kids and teens to keep other more objectionable things out of there, also to make it a little easier to find something they might actually be interested in. And here in collections, you can take a look at a bunch of different themed groupings of books just to give you some inspiration when you're looking for something to read. Like there's the New York Times bestsellers, sorted in the order they appear on the chart. This one will be fiction first and then nonfiction second. You'll tend to notice, obviously the bestsellers, a lot of these are not going to be available right now. But you can still get yourself on the wait list and get them when you're ready. We also have a couple other things like the best books from the last decade, compiled from a bunch of different publications. Just a bunch of different things to give you an idea of what you might want to read. That is it for the Overdrive part of this. So let's come back here, and now we're going to take a look at Hoopla. Again, you're going to want to sign in. Now, this has me already filled in because I have an account. If you do not have an account, you're going to want to click Get Started Today. I want that right now. You'll enter your email, enter it again, create a password, and enter that again, and hit Agree. The next thing it's going to ask you for is to enter your library card number and pick the Avalon library out of the list. You can just search for us. Avalon Free Public is usually enough to find us in most of the lists on here. And then that'll be it, and you'll be in. Going forward, no matter what device you go on, you can just log in with that email and that password. It is required to be at least 8 characters long, but other than that, I would say try and keep it pretty simple because there's no credit card information or anything really identifying attached to this one. So while I would say in general you want to make passwords that are harder for people to figure out, in this case it really does not matter because the worst thing they could possibly do would be check out a book or something. It's not really going to make any difference. I am going to go ahead and just log in to my account that already exists. So we can move around here. Now we are in. Now Hoopla has ebooks and audiobooks like Overdrive does, but it also has movies, TV shows, comic books, and albums. There are going to be a couple of other differences over here where, for one thing, the selection over here is not picked by us at the library. It's all what Hoopla gets the licenses to. So what that means, 2 things. One is that you might not find some of the biggest, newest bestsellers on here. In fact, you probably won't, with some rare exceptions. But you will. They still are getting a really good selection of like older titles that you might still be interested in. This also means, though, that everything is effectively unlimited copies, and you don't have to wait for anyone to finish with anything. You can just check it out right away. It doesn't matter if other people have it already or not, which can be really helpful if you're doing something like a book club or something like that. This also does mean, though, that there's a limit of 10 items that you can borrow per month. So just be mindful of that. You can see it has on this page it listed right here. If you were using the app on the Roku or something like that, up near the top right should be a little square with a 10 or a 9 or an 8 or however many copies you have left for the month. The one thing to really be mindful of is that with TV shows, each episode counts as a borrow, so be really careful with that you don't burn through your 10 trying to binge watch a show. Right on the front page here, you can see they have some different things that they're highlighting. You can go down and they have things that are recommended for you. I don't honestly know what their criteria are because I can tell you, like, out of these 5 things they're recommending for me, I would say only 2 actually hold any interest to me, but that's okay. Yeah, I guess these down here are things that I did have some interest in. If you want to look at more specific types of things, you can come up to Browse, and you can see it goes to audiobooks, movies, music, comics, ebooks, and television. We're going to go to ebooks for right now. And by default, it's showing us what is popular right now, and this is both adult and kids books. You can sort it by different things. You can say like relevance, popularity, user rating, date added, release date. Let's go ahead and say, let's go with popularity. which didn't really change anything because that was the default, but you get the idea there. You can further filter this down by format, release date, a lot similar to what is over on Overdrive. This also lets you format by patron rating, so that can help filter out some of the things that are not quite as good on here. And there are multiple languages available over here, so you can filter it that way as well. You can also use these things to exclude abridged titles or just show children's books. We're going to go ahead and just pick The Woman in the Window here to click on that to give you an idea of what happens at that point. Much like how it was over on Overdrive, it does give you information about the book here. We can get more description of the title. We'll see some of the reviews down here. You can click the little heart to add it to your favorites list here, which means if you don't want it right now, but you don't need to search for it later, you can just click that so you can find it more easily. Or you can just go ahead and click borrow. It lets you know how long you'll have it, which is 21 days, and you'll then hit borrow title. You get a little pop-up down here saying how long you're going to have it for. And now you can go ahead and click read. We'll look at a couple others, like music. You can see it has a lot of the most recent albums on here. It's not going to have everything because not every record label has agreed to be on this service, but most really popular things are going to be on here. So you shouldn't have any trouble finding something that you might want to listen to. You can see the audiobooks can sometimes have a little bit of a better selection than the ebooks does. Like you'll notice right away the new Hunger Games is on here in audiobook format, but not in ebook format. So the comic selection is really very interesting. This is showing us right now, it's pretty heavy on the Avatar thing, but it does have like DC and Marvel comics on here as well. Let's look at movies. Movies can be a little bit more iffy on here. Like they will have some older blockbuster titles, but mostly with newer things, it skews towards independent things or maybe like made-for-TV level sort of films. But you can still find some good things to watch on here. It's certainly helpful on a rainy day. And again, you don't have to wait for anything, and there's no fees or anything like that. The television selection is very heavy on both children's things and British television, which I know is very popular amongst our patrons. So you could probably find quite a bit to watch over there. We'll go ahead and just pick one. You would just hit borrow, and this is the thing you gotta see. Each episode, you borrow it individually. If you go to My Hoopla, it'll bring you up to the front page here where you can see what is currently borrowed. You also have a currently borrowed favorites and history section here, like for instance with this book. If you go to your history, that can be good for reminding you of things that you borrowed before but you didn't finish. There's also a button over here to switch to just kids-friendly items. And over here we have the settings, which allows you to determine your email preferences, whether you want to be in kids mode, if you want to track your borrowing history. You can change what library you're affiliated with in case you move or anything like that. You can determine what genres you are interested in for recommendations. You can also change your email address and password. That's really it for the basics over there. Another great service for movies is Canopy, which you can find in the video tab down at the bottom of the digital library page. You can see it's listed here right underneath Hoopla. We'll just go ahead and click on the word Canopy to get to it. When you first access it, you're going to see this screen here, which just shows that you are with the Avalon Free Public Library. If it does not say that, you're going to click where it says Find a Different Library, and that's going to go ahead and give you this screen here where you can say, do you have a public library card? Click Find Your Library. And you can see, since location services are enabled, it is suggesting the Avalon Free Public Library, as that is the closest one to my house, and probably to yours if you are in Avalon, that offers access to this service. If you are currently somewhere else, it will show you things closer to where you live, but you can just search for us, Avalon Free Public Library, in the search box up here. Once you have gone ahead and done that, let's go ahead and go a little further. Click here and click Select This Library. And now you would go ahead and type in your library card number. I'm not going to do that because I already have an account here. but this is where you would enter that in. On the next screen, it's going to make you create a free account. You would just enter your email address and then create a password. And like with many of the other apps that we provide for free, I would say make it a really easy to remember password, because again, there won't be any credit card information or anything that people could hack in and steal. Even if you want to use the same password for all these library apps, and normally we don't say to do that, but in this case, I think it would be fine. Just make sure it's not the same password you use for other more important things like banking or your email or something like that. I am going to go ahead and go back to the beginning here because I have already created an account here. So what I would do is come over to login, and once you've created an account, if you see the screen, that is what you would do as well. So when you get to the screen, you could go ahead and, when you sign up, use Google or Facebook to log in, so you don't have to create all the account the way you do the other way. I don't generally recommend doing that. I know neither of these companies is likely to go out of business anytime soon, but if they were, it would leave you in a very hard spot. And also, if you decided you just absolutely got sick and tired of Facebook, which I think many people are, you may not want to have everything tied in with that. I'm just going to go ahead and log in here. It's going to welcome you back, load your profile, and once you are in, you're going to see this where it has like featured banners across the top. You'll see up in the right how many views you have left for the month. Much like Hoopla, this one only gives you 10 credits per month. You can click on any of these to go right to it. It'll have newly added movies down here. If you hover over them, it gives you a quick little description of the film. As you scroll down, you'll see there's newly added documentaries, newly added international movies, and then you get some other categories like what's trending, different things that are relevant to anything that's going on right now. You'll generally find one called credit-free viewing, and these are things that you can watch that don't count against your 10 for the month. So you can, if you have used up all of your movies, this is going to be a good way to find something extra to watch, and you might stumble upon something you might not otherwise have watched. It will begin to recommend things for you as you use it. That'll improve the more movies that you watch. Let's go ahead and click on one of these movies here. We'll just go back up to the top, and we'll go ahead and why not? So when you click on one of the titles, you'll see it has the play button right here. Now, if you click that, that is basically going to begin it to play and count it as your use. I think there's a warning. Let's go ahead and do that. No. So you see that could start the movie, and you have the play controls, the run along through the movie here. This is the speed you can watch it at, which I don't know why you would want to speed it up, but you could. Closed captioning and full screen. If you didn't want to watch the movie right now and you wanted to remember it for later, you could just hit add it to your list. You can share things to social media. It doesn't, like, people would still have to sign up and get a library card or whatever to watch it, but it does share a direct link to it. So if you really liked the movie, you could say, oh, put it on Facebook, this movie was great, and you can watch it with your library card on Canopy or something like that. You can create clips to share with people, and then there's a couple other things like a transcript and other things like that. You probably won't really use those. As you scroll down, you will see here we can get a little bit more information about the movie, some recommendations for other films based on this one, and down here you can go ahead and post a review or your thoughts or whatever. When you're back at the Canopy homepage, you'll notice there's also a thing that says Go to Canopy Kids. It's just a good way to avoid some of the other more adult content. And also, again, to find content that your kids are likely to be interested in. You see, they have a decent amount of popular things on here that kids could watch, like the Mo Willems things. There's Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. The book itself is actually very popular. Corduroy, a bunch of different cute little things like animated films. One thing you're going to notice about this is that it is really heavy on the art house cinema. So if you're looking for like the big blockbusters, this is also not going to really be the place for that. I mean, you'll see some more wide release films like Oculus, and The Paperboy got a bit wider release. And if you scroll down, eventually you'll find that Paramount Pictures has a lot of classic movies on here. But other than that, it really leans towards independent films. The difference here versus Hoopla, though, is that the independent films here tend to lean towards those that got a significantly larger amount of attention, in particular with A24 Pictures being on here. This also gives you access to the great courses, which the easiest way to get to that is to search right up here, and that's a good way to demonstrate what the search box does. As we type things in, you can see it recommends a bunch of different things with similar titles. We want the great courses, so we're going to come down here into that. I think either of these great courses will go to the same place, however. And once we're in there now, we can see it has around 6,400 different great courses videos. These also do not count towards your credits, so go ahead and watch as many of these as you want. Likewise, the kids content does not count towards your credit. And again, you can scroll down here and see all the different things that are on offer. And that is it for Canopy. And now PressReader is also located in the digital library page. If you come down to magazines and newspapers, just scroll down until you get to PressReader. And go ahead and click on the PressReader title. That should take you right in. If you haven't been signed in on your computer before, which I'm assuming you are not, then you will get a screen like this, and it shows you that you can pay for this for $10 a month, but we are not going to be doing that because the library provides that for you. So the first time you do that, you're going to want to come up to sign in up here in the top right. If you have already created an account with this before, you can just enter your username and password over here right now. But if you have not yet, you'll hit library or group. And what will wind up happening then is you'll get a list of different libraries. Ideally, it should show you things that are nearby. In this case, that isn't working right now, but we can just go ahead and start searching for Avalon Library. Let's say Avalon Free. Yeah, Avalon Free Public should get you there. You just click on us, and then you would enter your library card number and create a password. I would say make it something pretty easy. For the username, just put your email down. You would have to do that again every 30 days. It would be the same thing. You would just click on library or group and enter that info again. But in that case, you would not have to create a new password. You would just use the existing one, and then you would be okay. I should still be registered, so let's go ahead and hit sign in. And that should take me in. And now you get this little welcome screen that shows that you logged in with the library. It shows you how much longer your access has left. And like I said, at the end of 30 days, you would have to enter your library card number again. I don't really want to click on any of that. So let's click this X here to get rid of that welcome screen. And right away, it's going to show you, like, here are publications that you're following. So it makes it easier for you to access them. If you scroll off to the right, it's just going to start showing you the front cover of different magazines, like they have them featured here. If you keep going, it's going to be like these are the top ones, I guess the most popular right now. I wouldn't worry about top free. Then it starts showing you the publications from the US. These are going to be arranged by which one of these has the most recently published issue. So, I mean, you're going to see lots of newspapers in here, and more than once as it gets to additional issues. For any of these headings, you should be able to click See All up near the top right of it, and it'll let you see all of the magazines and newspapers that fit into that description. Let's just go ahead and pick something here. We will stop at Entertainment TV. Let's go to Reader's Digest. If you want to read the issue, you just click on the front cover, and it brings us right in. This is actually the Asian Pacific Reader's Digest, so I didn't realize that's what I was getting, but that's okay. It looks like it is in English anyway. When you first open the publication, it shows you here which issue it is. You can go ahead and look back for other issues. I mean, this Reader's Digest looks like it's just monthly, so there's not too many of them back there. You can print from here using this. I don't know that you would necessarily want to print a whole publication because that could take a lot of paper, but if you did, you could do that. You can switch to text view, which we are going to do in a minute, and I'll show you what that is. You can move around the issue just by holding down your left mouse button and dragging the icon across the screen. If you're on a touchscreen device, just do that with your finger, just swipe across. Anything that has the blue underline on it is a hyperlink, so you can go right to it. Like here in the table of contents, you can go right to a story just by clicking on it in there. Likewise, across the bottom, you will see like the table of contents, and you can click anywhere in there to go directly to that. It'll also bring up this thing that shows you a little preview of the magazine while you have it up here. And if you want to get rid of this little preview, you just click up here in the larger version of the magazine and it goes away. This is basically working like an old microfiche machine. which on a computer, this is fine. The text is big enough, it's okay. On a phone or an iPad, you may want the text to be bigger and easier to read. So that is when you would go ahead and click on text view, and you can do that from anywhere. We'll go ahead and click on it right now. And this brings it up in a cleaner, easier to read format. Now you'll see it's only going to show you, to begin with, just the very beginning of the article to decide if you want to read it. If you do, you would just go ahead and click this little green arrow, and that brings out the whole article, along with any of the pictures and things like that formatted to fit in here. You can click on the picture to get it a little bit bigger. The text in this picture is just some more from the article. In this case, because of the way they have it laid out, that's how it works. Just click outside of the picture to get rid of it. You scroll along, get the whole thing. And you still have this content down here, the table of contents, so you can move along that way. Also, at the end of each article, you'll have some things you can upvote or downvote it, which will influence the things that it surfaces in your feed when you first open the app. You can go back to page view, you can save it for later, you can have it read out to you, or you can share it. If you click on that, you can see we can share it to Facebook, Twitter, and a couple other things. When we are done with all that, we can hit the arrow up here to come back out of the publication. I only have to hit it a couple times. Now we're back at the beginning. If you want to add a publication to your publications, just go into one here. When you first open it up, you would click right here where it says Add to My Publications. And what that does is it means whenever you first open up the app, all of these that you follow will be right up at the front there. And you can, like this, I actually follow more than these, but you would hit See All and then it would show you the whole list. You can browse through the collection on here, which is very big. So you'll definitely, if you are going to browse through it, you're going to want to use these filters. By default, they have it by categories. So you can see like animals and pets, art, automotive, etc., etc. You can go down the list there. You can also sort it by languages. As you can see, most of them are in English. There's about 2,500 here. But there are some from all sorts of different languages. So if you can read one of those, you can find some very interesting publications from all around the world. If you're not so much interested in the language, but you want to know the country, you would just click countries up here and then sort it out by that. And you'll see it is quite a lot from around the world. So if you have family in another country, or if you moved from another country, you can still get access to a lot of the publications from back home here. Like we click on France and you can see all of these like papers and magazines that you can get from there. I'm going to go back. In this hamburger menu up here, you can go ahead and access what they call the home feed. And once that loads here, what that's going to wind up being is a selection of articles from newspapers and magazines based on things you have shown interest in previously. I have not really done a lot of that thumbs up, thumbs down on here, so this is not really too accurate for me, but the more you use it, it would start to figure out what you want and then start making correct recommendations. Like here you see it hasn't recommended anything for me. When we go back to the left in the news feed, you'll see over here, again, we can change the language and the region. You can see like top stories, which is what it's showing here first, recommended, politics, business, all that. The publications you follow, you can change that. I haven't added any sections of interest here. Let's see if we can't get the interest to work this way. Here we go. So once you click this, you can click on the things that you think you would be interested in seeing. You can always change this later. I don't really know. I'm not ready for that yet. Let's say, I don't know, entertainment and, I don't know, U.S. news. Let's pick those and hit save. And then in the recommended section, things about those stories would begin to appear. As we scroll down here. You can follow individual reporters. I would say that some of that's going to be a little weird and it'll kind of work the same as the publications. You can see some of these are actual individual users. So whenever that person writes whenever that person writes an article, you would see that show up in this feed. And then if you search for anything, you can save that so that that'll show up in there as well. And when you're in that menu again, if you go back to publications, that brings you back where you can browse around and look through all of that. If we click these three dots up in the top right, that gives us some control over how this appears. We can have it arranged by alphabet, most popular or recent. You can change the grid size or have it look like a newsstand. Let's go ahead and do that now. So then you're just flipping through the front covers. This gives you a much better look at them. And if you click on your name, it gives you some things for your own individual account. You can go to your channel. You can share your channel with other people. They can follow you so that if you save things to this, people will see what you're interested in. So you can sort of curate a news experience for people that might want to follow you. You do not have to do that if you do not want to, so don't worry about that. If you did want to do that, you just create a new post here for people to follow. And if you go to my account, this is where you can see who is signed in under this account, the email associated with it, any social networks you have linked up. You do not have to do that if you don't want to. But if you think you're going to share things, you might want to go ahead and do that. And you can delete your account from here if you want to as well. You can also revoke consent to cookies, but I would imagine doing that would affect how this operates, so you might not want to. And that's it for that one. Back here in magazines and newspapers, you'll notice we do have a link here to the Philadelphia Inquirer. That's just going to bring you into PressReader, which is where the access to that is. And there's a quick tutorial here for how to get started with doing that in case you need a refresher for that. We also have access to the New York Times. That is its own separate app. So when you click on that, what happens is it brings you out to this web page where you need to punch in your library card number. And what winds up happening then is it gives you 72 hours of access to the newspaper. You could create a New York Times account if you wanted to, so that way once you've done this, you could sign in with that account over on your phone or your tablet or whatever other device you want. But every 3 days, you would have to go back and do this again in order to keep getting access. Once you are in the New York Times, it's basically structured to look like the front page of the paper. You just scroll down, click on the different articles you want to read. If you want to browse through the sections, let me get that to come back again. As you're browsing around, you notice, if I can get it to stay, this bar will come across the top here, so you can click directly to different sections. Alternately, up near the top of the page is this hamburger menu, and that brings up all the sections, and there's subsections in the menu over here, so you can get directly to whatever it is that you're looking at. There really isn't much more to say about that. Scroll through the article, share it on social media, tag it for later. You can comment usually down at the bottom, and I don't see that on this one. And that's really it for the New York Times. We do also have some additional apps that you can access from our website over here under the research heading on resources. When you get over there, this is going to be broken down by category. There's some that are from the History Center. This New Jersey Digital Highway has a bunch of different, let's go ahead and get it. There's a bunch of different digital exhibits related to New Jersey history. The Avalon Archive has a lot of local history on there, yearbooks, books and magazines, things that are scanned in. If you want to browse through the history of the town, we'll just randomly pick one here so you can get an idea. There's the Yacht Club book from 1973. As that loads in, you'll be able to browse through that. It looks like there's several years of that on there. Under business, finance, and career, we have some things like this. This is just business news. You'd probably still be a little better off using like PressReader or the New York Times. There is Job and Career Accelerator, which is a good tool for getting assistance with things like building your resume. Can help you find a career that would be a good match for you, or different tips for preparing for an interview. It's a good place to get started if you're about to be getting ready to go on a job hunt. Morningstar Investment Resource Center. When you click on that, you come in there, enter your library card number, and you would immediately be allowed to look at all the different research that they have and related to stocks, so you could find out all the different things you need to make informed decisions about stocks you would want to invest in or sell. Again, with the caveat that obviously nobody is psychic, so, it's just advice, so use caution with that one. Reference USA is good for businesses to find marketing information. When you come in, you got to accept the terms on here. Click continue. And you can browse through. It's basically like the white pages that we can find, or the yellow pages rather, where you can find information for a bunch of different businesses. You can also look up phone numbers and things for U.S. citizens. You can also get like consumer research, like what people are interested in different areas, things like that, just to help you figure out if your business is something that would be viable in your marketplace. Regional business news is, again, just some local business publications for different regions. The Small Business Reference Center has got a bunch of guides to help you get started with your small business. You would have to type in your library card there. That's a bunch of videos basically that you would be walked through to help you determine how viable your business is. Like, it gives you the different tools you need to put that together and figure that out for yourself. Under genealogy, we have a bunch of things to help you look up your family history. There's, most notably probably, is access to Ancestry. It is the library edition, so it's not the same as the full Ancestry. You do got to punch in your library card number down there. So once you enter in your library card, you can come in and browse around through Ancestry. You're going to basically get access to all the things that Ancestry lets you search. The real difference here is that when you pay for Ancestry yourself, you get to save all your stuff into like a family tree and different lockers and things, and you're not going to be able to do that with this. You'll have to print things out and sort them yourself. If you don't want to have a lot of paper, you can always save it as a PDF instead of printing it. So that way you just keep it as a file and move it to wherever you need to work with it from there. Let's go all the way back here. But there's also Family Search and Heritage Quest, which are some pretty good resources for additional data if you're trying to put that together. For kids and teens, there's things like you can take the New Jersey driver's test. Explore is on here. Tutor.com is very useful. Tutor offers live help for everyone from elementary through college students, only from the hours of 3 to 10 p.m., but it is a great thing to have access to without having to pay for that. Under Learn, we just have some things, some resources. There's also Rosetta Stone on here, which is one of the best language learning programs available, so you can have access to that without paying for it. There's a quick video here to show you how to get started with that if you need to do so. Newspapers and magazines is the same as it was over in the digital library section. There's not anything additional over here. Reader Resources has a direct link to the New York Times bestseller list and also a tool called Novelist. This is another one where you first have to sign in with your library card number. And what this does is it really helps you find books that are similar to others that you've read. So they have some things like I'm in the mood for books that are, and it has like different subjects, I guess you would call it, or categories, to give you some ideas already. Looks like fast-paced and action-packed. So here's a bunch of thrillers. If you are looking for books similar to one of these, like let's say you've read The Goodbye Man and you want to find something similar to that, when you come in here, in addition to all the information about it, down the right-hand side are a list of reader likes. So it's going to be a great way to find something that is similar to something else you've already really liked. And it is really, really good with their recommendations. So it's definitely worth checking out. We use it at the library to help come up with recommendations for people, and we're very happy with how well that works out. So that is the basics for the different apps that you can access online with your library card for free anytime. We are always adding things, so it's a good idea to come back every so often and have a look. If you have any further questions about any of this, you can contact us at the library. The information will show up at the end of this video. And if you have any specific questions for me, you can just ask for Sean or get me an email at sean@avalonfreelibrary.org. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.